We're talking about UConn players. How many championships do you think Caitlin Clark would have won if we had surrounded her with the Gino Auriemma UConn roster? I got a bigger problem with you, NCAA, than I have with Rick Pitino. I'm happy to see Rick Pitino back. You know, West Virginia, 48th in education, 50th in infrastructure, first at bitching about the NCAA tournament, motherfucker. One of 2 times in my adult life that I have been brought to tears by the conclusion of a sporting event. Let's begin with Caitlin Clark and her status within the game of women's basketball. Where does she belong in the annals of the history of the game of women's basketball? Which, I'm going to be honest with you, it hasn't exactly been my strong suit as a sports fan through the years. But now here I am talking about it on this program because ESPN was having a conversation about who are the top 5 women's basketball players of all time. Guess who was absent from that list? Yes, that's right. You would be correct in guessing that it was Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, not included on ESPN's list. And let's go ahead and take a look at this here. I'm going to tell you the players that are on the list. Breanna Stewart from Connecticut, Candace Parker from Tennessee, Diana Taurasi from Connecticut, Maya Moore from Connecticut, and Reggie's big sister, Cheryl Miller from USC. That was their top 5. Caitlin Clark left out of that picture. So is this another example of ESPN hating on Caitlin Clark? Or is there a case to be made that that's an accurate list? This is what I do for you. I dig into these issues. I asked Grok this morning to compare the achievements and accomplishments of these 6 women and to objectively tell me, where does Caitlin Clark fit into this picture? Now, here's the thing. ESPN is prioritizing national championships. Breanna Stewart won 4, Candace Parker won 2, Taurasi won 3, Maya Moore won 2, Cheryl Miller won a couple. First team All-Americans, all of these women, first team All-Americans at least twice. Breanna Stewart was a first team All-American 4 times, so was Taurasi. Caitlin Clark not winning a championship is the one thing here that leaves her lacking in terms of her resume. Now, Caitlin Clark did something that none of the other players ever did, and that is lead the country in scoring and assists, and she did it all 4 years that she played. That's right. You may not know that. Caitlin Clark led the nation in both scoring and assists all 4 years of her career. Breanna Stewart never led the nation in anything. So you got to decide, how do you feel about it? Is it championships that make the greatness of the player? We're talking about UConn players. How many championships do you think Caitlin Clark would have won if we had surrounded her with the Gino Auriemma UConn roster? Would she have led the country in scoring at that point? Probably not. They wouldn't have needed her to score 30 a game. Would she have led the country in assists? Maybe. Would she have won championships? Certainly. She dragged Iowa all the way to the brink 2 times. That ain't a basketball school. So what are we comparing here? For the record, Grok ranked her 6th. I will just tell you, as much as some of you might like for me to have a little righteous indignation and say that ESPN is terrible, I think that there's, depending upon what you prioritize, you could rank Caitlin Clark number 1, I suppose, or you could rank her number 6. But when it comes on the heels of all of the shit that we have heard said about Caitlin Clark, some of it emanating from the worldwide leader, I think it's easy to see why people are cynical and they say, well, of course, Caitlin Clark is the one that you would leave out of the top 5. But Breanna Stewart, I will say, out of everything that I looked at today, I have an increased appreciation for Breanna Stewart. 4 national championships, 4-time first-team All-American, 4 Final Four Most Outstanding Player awards. And I think she won 3 Naismith awards as the best player. So the number 1 player on the list, in my opinion, I'm going to say Breanna Stewart, if we're looking at what they've achieved. Speaking of achievement, the governor of West Virginia is upset because he believes that North Carolina didn't achieve their at-large bid that a lot of people feel was handed to them on a silver platter. OutKick's own Dan Dockich on the program yesterday saying that he knows Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director at North Carolina, and, decent guy, but you can't tell Dan that there's not some cronyism that goes on when these selections are being made for at-large teams. As we discussed on the program yesterday, North Carolina went 22-13, but they were 1-12 in Quad 1 games. Quad 1 games are home games against teams ranked in the top 30, neutral site games against teams ranked in the top 50, and road games against teams ranked in the top 75. North Carolina had 13 of those games this year. They won 1, but they got in. I want to go here to the governor of West Virginia, Pat Morrisey, saying that this is such a miscarriage of justice that it may be time to get the Attorney General of West Virginia involved. Let's listen.
6 Quad 1 wins. And that was combined with an undefeated record against Quad 3 and Quad 4 opponents. 3 wins against top 10 teams and the 24th toughest schedule in America. West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament? Ahead of the Mountaineers. That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in Quad 1 games and even had a Quad 3 loss. And we keep hearing about the importance of these Quad 1 wins, but UNC couldn't even get...
Let the governor speak. Tim was in my ear saying I could cut off the governor anytime I wanted to, but he was on a roll. He was like John Belushi in Animal House. He's on a roll. Let him finish. This motherfucker is so mad that West Virginia didn't make the NCAA tournament. He wants to get it adjudicated somewhere. Let me get my Attorney General. Listen, I understand where he's coming from. North Carolina shouldn't be in the tournament. I'm not as upset about it as some other people might be because North Carolina does have a good team. They won 22 games. Yes, that Quad 1 statistic is damning, but is there anybody else out there that is so much better than North Carolina that this is some terrible thing that's happened? I mean, if your team's really good, you're not going to be on the bubble, right? Am I right? I'm not saying that it's still not something where we want to get it right. I'm not saying it's unimportant because we're at the bubble, but I'm saying that, how upset can you be? I mean, I looked into West Virginia, the governor touting their 6 Quad 1 wins, which admittedly is impressive. West Virginia went 19-13. Okay? So maybe sit down, governor. And, West Virginia, 48th in education, 50th in infrastructure, first at bitching about the NCAA tournament, motherfucker. That's what they're doing well in West Virginia. Motherfuckers can't read, don't have shoes. The Hatfields and the McCoys are still going at it. Was that in West Virginia or was that my home state of Kentucky? I'm from Kentucky. I got to be careful how much shit I give West Virginia. This is the most begging for what someone wants from a Morrissey that I've seen since the Smiths release. Please, please, please let me get what I want. And that's a reference that I put in the show for the 8 people here who get it. Please, please, please let me get what I want, says the governor of West Virginia. Jay Billis weighing in. It's not fully discussed until the guru of college basketball, Jay Billis, chimes in. Let's listen to what Billis had to say.
Every team in Division I has the same opportunity to make the tournament. It's the fairest thing possible. All you have to do is win your automatic bid in your league against your peers with the teams you decided to be in a league with. And if you don't do that, then you go into the pool with everybody else. But there's one thing that is a little bit bothersome. Like, I think for West Virginia, I mean, complain all you want. Make your case. Let's talk about whether the system is right, whether we should make changes, all that stuff. But this idea about a lawsuit against the NCAA or against the selection committee is really kind of silly. And I wish I were the judge in that thing, because one of the questions I would ask the plaintiff is, how many games did you play? And how many of those games did you win? Well, if you don't want to be at the end of the line, have the committee decide that, maybe you should think about winning more. Case dismissed.
I wish that I had a gavel. I'd be that judge. What was your team's record? Well, we went 19-13, Your Honor. Bang, 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 bang. Get the fuck out of my courtroom. You didn't even win 20 games. You got to win 20 games at least to complain. And have less than 13 losses, too, for that matter. I'm on board with the Billustrator. I'm also on board with Jerry Tarkanian's fashion sense. Have a look at this. Back in the early days of Tark the Shark, here he is, back in the 70s. What's better, Jerry Tarkanian looking like a cast member from Barney Miller, or his assistant looking like a drug dealer Kojak's about to bust at halftime? It's a trick question. They're both incredible. You don't have to pick which one's better when you have a menu that's that delightful. Why were the 70s better, people ask me? Because guys dress like that unironically. I know we've got hipsters running around in 2025 with their little mustaches and whatever fashion trend they find ironic at this moment. But that was sincere. Guys looked in the mirror, thought, I look fucking good. And then they walked out into the world like that. That's one of the reasons that the 70s are better. Rick Pitino is in his 70s. Ronnie, did you like that segue? Rick Pitino, 72 years old and having a career renaissance with St. John's. And I've said it before, I've got a relationship with Rick Pitino. I've never met him. But being from Kentucky, I certainly watched what he did at the University of Kentucky. I watched what he did at the University of Louisville, my alma mater. And then I watched his fall from grace as our 2013 national championship banner was taken down. Rick went into exile, ended up at Iona, but now, like Steve Winwood, he's back in the high life again, motherfucker. And he was talking to Pat McAfee very recently about his career arc. Let's listen to Rick Pitino.
You know, your journey back here to the spotlight is a beautiful one. And, you know, we live in Indianapolis. We're not that far away from your previous homes. When that ended, how it ended, was there, and you gave that adversity speech to your team, was there ever a doubt that you were going to get back to this moment? Not that you didn't with Iona, you know, but like now you are back to being in the spotlight, being talked about as a GOAT again. Everybody, you know, like, did you ever have a doubt that that was going to take place, or is this always the vision to get back to the top?
Well, the NCAA enforcement staff is I won't call them corrupt. I will call them inept.
Okay.
And I say that, and the reason I say that is it takes them 5 years to decide your fate. So whether you're guilty or innocent doesn't matter. It's going to take them 5 years to judge you. So after 5 years, I get exonerated. Well, now I'm over in Greece coaching a legendary program, Panathinaikos. And to be perfectly honest with you, Pat, I thought I was going to end my career in the EuroLeague, which wasn't bad, by the way. I was visiting Moscow, St. Petersburg, Madrid, Tel Aviv. I visited places I'd never experienced. Panathinaikos is like the Boston Celtics of Europe. So it was a wonderful thing for me. I learned an awful lot at age 65 being over there. So I thought that was the end for me. Then I went back to coach Iona University, where we were lucky enough to go to NCAA 2 out of 3 years. And that was very exciting. And I wouldn't have moved from Iona. Just St. John's was a local team, and I got a chance to move over to here.
I joke about Rick Pitino sometimes. I've tweeted about illegal recruiting and shit like that before. You know, I mean, we had the prostitutes coming to the University of Louisville and everything that went down there. A little bit salty about the fact that we got our championship taken away. But I got a bigger problem with you, NCAA, than I have with Rick Pitino. I'm happy to see Rick Pitino back doing what he's doing. Dan Dockich yesterday talking about how much respect he has for Rick Pitino as a coach. And to be north of 70 and to be adapting, a guy who took Providence to the Final Four back in the 1980s, for God's sakes, to still be relevant. A guy who was coaching Billy Donovan, who's a pretty old veteran coach now at this point himself. So to be where Rick is, I'm happy for him, but I will say, if there's one thing that I have a problem with that I can never forgive you for, Rick, it's this. You gotta put a man on Grant Hill. 1992, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the Spectrum. This is an old tweet of mine. I said, name a bad coaching decision. I'll start with Rick Pitino not putting a man on Grant Hill for the inbounds pass that, well, unless you're very young or you were living it under a rock, you know what happened with that pass. Christian Laettner caught it, put it on the floor once, turned around, and broke an entire state's heart, including mine, one of 2 times in my adult life that I have been brought to tears by the conclusion of a sporting event. Rick. Let me go now to the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie,
wait,
he
what's
should
the
have put
other?
a man on Grant Hill before
What's
we
the
do
other one?
anything
What's
else.
wait, dude? Why
How
are you
can
leaving
you
everybody
not?
hanging? Why are you leaving everybody hanging? What's the other one?
Well, I knew you would ask me. I knew
Okay.
you would ask me.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just left it to marinate for a moment. I knew you'd ask me, Ron. It was Tom Watson losing the British Open in 2009. He needed a par on the 72nd hole to win the Open Championship for a 6th time at age 59. And he hit a really nice, I think it was an 8-iron in there. It just went a little hot, rolled off the back of the green. He chipped up. He had about an 8 or 10 footer, as I recall, to win the Open, a tournament that he had won for the first time in 1975. Trying to win at Turnberry in 2009, the same place where he outdueled Jack Nicklaus in 77. Can you imagine winning the Open Championship at the same venue 32 years apart, Ron? There had never been a major champion older than 48 at that time. Phil got the PGA in 2021 at age 50. So we have had a 50-year-old major winner now, but Tom was almost 60. And man, it broke my heart. Those are the 2 times that I cried.
I mean, did you like have a special affinity for Watson? Like that seems like, I'm going to be honest, it seems kind of weird that would make you cry. Like unless you like
Watson,
had some.
I like Tom Watson. Well, that's the same thing that God, what was his name? Who was the guy from Augusta last year? Well, the guy that looks like Jordan Spieth. Our friend.
Chris. Yeah, Chris Platt.
Yeah, what's his nickname? Yeah, Platt. There you go.
Platt. Yeah.
And he asked me that. I was sitting outside with Big E and Tom Levin and a bunch. Shout out to all those guys that I met for like a few days, and we were like brothers for like 3 days. That I'll never see you motherfuckers again, just like you predicted, Ron. Guys staying in a house, you know. But we were talking about it, and Platt turned to me and he asked me the same thing. He's like, "Why?" And it's a good question. I think it's because I knew how historically unlikely it was. I mean, Ryan, how old are you, Ron?
I'll be 59 this summer.
Okay. Imagine how you feel in your body, and then imagine going out and like taking on Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, I mean, Mickelson, everybody in the world, the best, everybody in their 20s and their 30s, and at almost 60, the way that us guys in our 50s feel when we get up in the morning, that motherfucker almost did it. And I think it would have been the greatest accomplishment, arguably, in the history of modern sports if he had won. What do you think, Ron, of the WNBA here? Well, it's not WNBA in this case. It's
College
NCAA.
basketball. Well,
college
interesting.
basketball.
Interesting you asked, because while you're doing that story, all I could think about was Washington Mystics owner, Sheila Johnson. She has to be thinking,
why can't they?
No, everybody that played every player that's ever played college
everybody's
basketball
the greatest.
is the greatest. Yes.
Player
That's
of
what I
the
was
year,
thinking.
everybody. Most
Everybody.
outstanding player of the Final Four,
Everybody.
everybody. It takes all of us. It takes a village. Ronnie T-shirts. Check this out, Ron. It's bracket time. We've got our own Why Not tournament bracket. We're going to be talking about that. It's underway, Ron. We had 2 games yesterday. We got one that tipped off this morning. The 4th one will tip off later this afternoon. But one thing we are not offering is a huge cash prize for the person who has a perfect Why Not tournament bracket, but Elon Musk is. Elon Musk has created a bracket challenge. First prize, $100,000, or if you prefer, you'll fly your ass to Mars. How about that? Ron, how would you feel about just getting on a heater with your bracket, and then the next thing you know, you're strapped in and you're on your way to Mars? Would you do it?
Yeah, I would take the 100,000. Like, yeah,
Listen, I remember the Challenger, okay? Everybody that watched the Challenger explode in 1986 is probably going to pass on Mars.
I've told you before, the only way I'll ever get on a helicopter is if it's a life flight situation. So I'm certainly not getting on a rocket to Mars. And I don't even like getting on planes. So yeah, no, I'm a hard pass, Rick. Can you imagine? Like Auburn wins the national championship, and then you just cue up Elton John right after that. She packed my bags last night, pre-flight, 0 out, 9 a.m. Elon Musk is gonna make me high. Yeah, I better stop right now. But anyway, there's a prize. I guess if you're into that, well, which one you would take the 100,000 too, right?
I would take I'd take 1,000. I'd take a pat on the back.
Right, I would take 10.
Handshake.
I would take 10, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
$10. Yeah.
I would take a congratulations.
Yeah.
Take a selfie with me, Elon. I'll do that. Ron, look, I'm sure you've seen this. It seems that there's a rash of this going on now around the country. People vandalizing Teslas. This is the political statement now that the reasoned, not, the nice people, the good guys, good guys are out there keying cars and
the party of compassion,
all of that stuff. Yeah, the compassionate people. Take a look at this. Yet another Tesla has been keyed, and I feel like this is the 3rd or 4th, maybe 2nd or 3rd instance of a Tesla being keyed that I've seen. But take a look at that guy.
What a loser.
What an asshole. I have no sympathy for people who do shit like this. No sympathy, whatever.
I mean,
this is from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, Ron. I guess that he's still on the loose. He hasn't been identified. This is the longest that it's taken the internet to identify anybody ever, by the way.
He's clearly armed and dangerous. We don't
already know his life story.
Yeah, he's armed and dangerous. Got that key. Watch out.
Look at that. Look at that asshole. Why, it's just people who destroy other people's property. There should be a special place in hell for them. I remember one time many, many years ago, somebody threw a brick through our basement window.
Okay.
Ron, just, probably teenager, probably a kid, just somebody that thought it would be funny to chuck a brick and run off giggling or whatever, and then that window was boarded up for a long time, and then we had to pay hundreds of dollars to fix it or whatever. And it's like, what did you gain from that? I will never understand people who destroy other people's things that they have worked hard to get. What do you gain from that? You're going to make some big statement by keying a stranger's car in an airport parking lot?
I'm
I
still.
hope that guy is identified, and I hope that he is publicly shamed and ridiculed.
We
And
need to do
charged
it.
with the
We need to
crime.
do what Singapore does, and that's petty crimes get harsh penalties. But I know people have talked about it before, but I just the irony of these people that like are so desperate to save the earth because of what we're doing to the climate. They're like, no, we're so mad at the guy who's trying to fix it. Like it's not lost on me or anybody else.
He's a Nazi, is the whole
He
thing,
is.
I guess.
He is.
Listen, let's bring in the dog, the bounty hunter of this program. I speak, of course, of producer Tim, who is going to join us. Now, Tim, you have the details better than I on the airport Tesla Kia. What's the latest?
Yeah, Ricky, he has not been identified yet. Tesla owners of Silicon Valley are also leading the charge here. We can get this guy's an asshole, honestly. Like, you want to be a coward, you want to key somebody's car. Like, this is where I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. This is where my wife would lose it, because I would fucking confront this guy right then and there and hold him till the authorities came. But anyway, Terminal A, Dallas Fort Worth Airport, parking level 5, in the parking lot structure there, DFW. They're trying to find him. There's new video now. They zoom in. He's got 3 very unique bracelets on.
He's a bracelet guy.
He's a bracelet guy, right? I'm with you, Ron. That's part of the issue right there.
Can we charge him for that?
Right.
As well.
Right.
That's got to be a misdemeanor in some red states.
I'm intellectually superior than you because I'm on the left. I'm dynamically superior to you. I'm fashion superior to you because I'm going to show you my bracelets, but I'm going to be I won't even say it, and sit there and key your car. So I really hope they get this guy.
Hey, where did that video come from? Do we know?
I think it came from the Tesla itself, Ron. I think the car self-recorded. I think they have a setting now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, if we're really interested, there's far better video now from the back of the car too. Yeah, so I don't know if you've been in a Tesla where the cameras are all around. It's pretty wild. Pops up on the air on the iPad in front. So I think it's self-recorded. It's pretty incredible. And this guy like sort of wandered around. He's got the black and white shoes on. Yeah, fuck this guy. Anyway.
Internet, do your work. Find him.
Yeah, that's it. I hope we find him today, and we can.
Isn't it ironic that the superior engineering of the Tesla is going to be what does it?
Tim,
right?
Tim.
If you keyed just the Kia, you'd have been fine. There's no cameras. There's no cameras in those. They're lucky to be moving down the highway.
Real quick, Ron. I know you want to ask me a question, but look, they're burning the charging stations up in Massachusetts. They're vandalizing the dealerships. But this is like some Joe Q public who's just parked there. All right, so you got a problem with Elon. You got a problem with what's going on. But I'm going to just key this other person's car. Like, man, I don't know. I'd love to see the beatdown.
Dude, there's a pretty good chance that was a Democrat's car too.
Absolutely.
Remember before everybody on the left hated Elon? It was the Democrats that were driving the entire electric vehicle industry forward. That was their thing, So, I mean, there's a ton of Democrats who drive Teslas. So, you're out there. There's probably a 50% chance you're keying the car of somebody that is ideologically aligned with you. They're not all like Sheryl Crow and have sent them back,
Exactly. Right. So who are you hurting? It's not a victimless crime. So and you're that pissed off at Elon. This is what you're doing. It just, look, I'm sorry, man. The country is not coming together. We know that. But little acts of cowardice like this is not going to bode well for any side of the aisle. Go ahead, Ron. Sorry. You got a better question.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you remember when Amber was on here, 4 months ago, and she was doing the charity thing, and I pledged $100.
Yeah.
I gave $100 to Jared so he could go to the Penn State game. Right now, I'm pledging $100 to whoever finds this guy.
I'll give another 100.
Okay, so we're at 2. Ricky, 100?
I'm pretty sure they're throwing everything at this guy already. So no.
Well, they're
trying.
They're
to participate in this.
Well,
They're
I'm
trying
just
to look at his tags. He's
Just gotta be
clearly a
honest.
business travel, according to the internet.
Ron's taking 6 vacations a fucking year, Tim. Okay.
It reminds
How
me
many
if I got to
days
make sure
does
I
Ricky
gave
Cobb
Jared that
take off
$100.
from the Ricky Cobb show? Ricky
You're due,
Cobb
man.
can't
You're
afford
due.
to take days off from the show.
people
I don't
the
have
people have to
$100
hear you.
How would
The
Jared?
people-
How would Jared feel when I don't give Jared $100 to go to the Penn State game, but I'm like, hey, I got $100 for this? What kind
No
of a fuck
days
you
off.
would that be to
No
the
days off.
to the chairman of the Why Not tournament selection committee? I'm not gonna do that. I like.
I
to
gotta
do
have
my
Jared
acts
get- I've
of
gotta-
kindness
I got-
not publicly.
I gotta have Jared get in my ear and make sure I gave him that $100. I know I gave him a little something around the holidays. I did.
Oh,
Awesome,
there you go.
awesome.
Hey, Jared.
Ricky,
Okay,
if I could
well,
draw back one
look,
second,
guys.
can I
Yeah.
draw back real quickly?
ahead, go ahead.
I know we don't always love to pull
Please.
back in the program, but for those of you watching live and engaged, the Tom Watson in 2009, I can tell you that I had just gotten into my wife's family and we were at the beach. It's really one of those memories that's seared in my mind as a sports fan. People were leaving the beach and telling each other about the 4-round playoff. Like, and it just, this is we had cell phones in 2009, but you weren't streaming. And like, at first I was like, is there like, it's in Cape Cod. I'm like, is there a shark attack? Like why? But there was that much of a groundswell generationally for this guy. Like I can get emotional thinking about it because to see it through the eyes of my father-in-law and others, like it was a really, really cool moment. And you and I have never talked this before. And I'm not just saying this because he's part of the Gap Tooth Society like me, but love Watson, love that moment. And I think, it reminds me of one of the ideas in our ideas doc that I do think we need to pick some seminal moments in American sports history. And I think we need to sort of dive in and do a full segment or specials on it. So, anyway, I digress.
All right. Well, I'm validated that you get it because I have had and Ron, I know that you weren't throwing shade
I just
at
got
me or
choked up.
anything.
I almost just got choked up saying it to you. It's crazy.
Yeah, but there are people who just don't, aren't on that wavelength for whatever reason.
I was
It's
so
kinda like, "Oh, that's a weird one."
disappointed. I never give a shit
Yeah.
about any golf event. Honestly, I've been to a bunch. I don't care who wins. I don't bet on golf. But
It
that
was bigger
moment,
than golf for me, Tim.
yeah, and that moment
It was
in
bigger
that
than
time,
golf. It was man
Yep.
against.
Yep.
It's like raging against the dying of the light. I mean, there was
Yep.
something heroic about it. Like,
And
he's pushing the links of what we thought was possible.
right?
Man
right.
against himself. It was something, and it's still. Sometimes I still think about it, and I just think, fuck. And Stuart Sink made like a fairly lengthy birdie putt on
crushed
18
him.
when
Crushed
he came
him.
in.
Yeah.
When he came in, I remember seeing him when he made it. When he made it, I didn't think it was going to be, the turning point of the tournament.
It
But,
was 2 holes
yeah.
later. What was it? 2 holes later, he came and finished. Right. Sink crushed him on that. But to me, humble, like super humble and super likable, I think is what also made Watson sort of, right? Because he was kind of, you would know better. He was always in the shadow of the other luminaries of that era. Great golfer, but didn't quite maybe get the shine that he deserved. I don't know. Yeah.
He's on my interview bucket list. We got to get the great Ernie Acosta.
Well, I can
to
tell you there's
somehow
already
reel in
there's,
Tom Watson.
there's already a text chain. Aaron has sent over his number, and Ernie's already reaching out. So yeah, that's where we're at.
All right,
well,
maybe we
guys,
can send Tom the clip of this segment.
The British
Maybe it'll push him
Open,
over the top to get him on here.
the British Open gave me kind of, it's not an exact parallel, but I didn't cry, but I felt like a wild sense of disappointment when Vandal lost because I was like, this is a guy that nobody's ever heard of. And we're just so used to like big names always winning these golf tournaments or other things. And it was like, this is something for the no-name guy. And like, I wanted that guy to win so bad. I thought it would be so cool for somebody that we've never heard of before. And I was truly disappointed. Was not brought to tears like you were, but I didn't have a relationship with this guy. So, so there's definitely some good drama in golf.
Yeah, and we're getting into that season. So here we go.
Golf is one of the great drama sports, no doubt about it, because you're exposed. before the world. It's just you, a stick, and a ball, and everybody watching. And if you hit it great or if you hit it bad, there's nobody to blame. You know, even they say the hardest thing to do is hit a baseball, and I don't doubt that. But if you don't hit it, you can always say, well, hey, man, dude, that was Greg Maddux, or that was Nolan Ryan, or that was Pedro Martinez. You know, but if you hit the ball the wrong way, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You know, you are out there naked in front of everybody. Guys, let's talk about the Why Not tournament. It's underway. Yesterday, Beer and Married with Children kicked it off about 24 hours ago, a little over 24 hours ago. And you can see here over 13,000 votes coming in on the first matchup. And Beer defeats Married with Children. We're going to round it 71-29. Put it on the board. As Hawk Harrelson used to say here in Chicago, Beer advancing, minimal difficulty with Al and Peg Bundy. Your reaction, guys?
Expected?
Absolutely expected. And I don't know what margin to expect in some of these. I was completely confident that Beer would win. I couldn't have told you if it was going to win 85-15 or if it was going to win 60-40, but it turns out 71-29. So
I think we're going to see some consistency, Ricky.
There, but
I think we're going to see some consistency in all the 1s versus 16s and all the 2s versus 15s. I bet we end up seeing some consistency in those in terms of the margins.
We'll find out. I mean, it's an experiment. What we're doing here, among other things, is just an experiment. Because I promise you, nobody has ever considered. Yeah, the historians one day will look back and
put it in the time capsule.
Great men of history.
Definitely in the time capsule.
Absolutely. Too early? Ricky never left too early. Secretariat didn't start his break too early when he won the Belmont by 31 lengths. Joe Carter's euphoric celebration didn't start too early when he rounded first base. MJ didn't leave too early when his dunk started on the free throw line. Was it too early when Tiger started running down that putt 6 feet before it dropped in the hole? Was it too early when Buster Douglas took down Iron Mike Tyson in Tokyo 35 years ago? And it certainly wasn't too early to see Ichiro say goodbye back in 2019. No, there's no such thing as too early when it comes to opening day. Dodgers, Cubs, in Japan, 5:10 a.m., first pitch here in Chicago. Yeah, sign me up. Yamamoto, Imanaga, Suzuki, and, oh yeah, Ohtani. Let's do this. It's opening day. It's never too early. Says the fucking hypocrite who thinks it's too early to get up and do this show. Is what I would say to you. Can you believe the baseball season's underway? I wake up on the day after St. Patrick's Day and there's standings. Yeah, that's right. I can't wrap my mind around it. Take a look at this. The Dodgers still have a chance to run the table. Best record in baseball, that would be the Los Angeles Dodgers, who defeated the Chicago Cubs at the butt crack of dawn, 4-1. Shohei Ohtani registering the first hit of the 2025 MLB regular season. He had a couple of hits in the game. And the Dodgers beat the Cubs. The Cubs have a loss. All right, that sounds about right. Let's just go ahead and get this going. The Cubs are already under 500, and lucky the leprechaun hasn't even gotten back to his home yet from making his rounds yesterday. Bill Murray was there, though. Chicago Cubs super fan. Take a look at this. There he is. Bill Murray there, of course, flanked on the left by Billie Jean King. Oh, man. It's all right. We got Bill Murray. even when things aren't great as a Cubs fan, I just think, well, we're the only team that has Bill Murray, so we got that going for us. My other favorite team, I have several other favorite teams, but my real other favorite team, well, you real ones know what I'm about to say. Well, I don't need to say it. Take a look. God, would you look at those sweet bastards? I almost feel like I need to have solar eclipse glasses on to just look at the sheer majesty of those glorious pinwheels. One day, maybe. I don't know. I would just say to Major League Baseball, Tampa Bay. Look, I went down to Tampa Bay years ago. I helped them with some theming of a faux back doubleheader that they did. As the 70s guy, they wanted me to pitch in some ideas, and I did. And I got to go down there for the doubleheader as a guest of the Rays organization. So all respect to the Rays organization, but 65,000 people came out to Raymond James to watch the goddamn Savannah Bananas. You motherfuckers can't get 5,000 people some night, and the roof of your stadium blew off. I say take that fucking shit back to Montreal, to Olympic Stadium, where it belongs. In the name of Warren Cromartie, the power of Warren Cromartie and Dan Schatzeder compels you. I say, we need baseball back in the Great White North. I know, if that is, if we can ever repair our diplomatic relations with the great country of Canada, that some people have said would make a very fine 51st state. But it remains to be seen what will happen there.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.